23rd of August 2020 at SummerSlam, Roman Reigns attacked Braun Strowman and The Fiend Bray Wyatt. This set up a match at Payback for the Universal title between the three. Roman Reigns wrestled throughout the match, winning the match in the end and becoming the Universal Champion. He received a ton of boos and the show ended with Roman Reigns as your Universal Champion. Vince was afraid that this would happen and he needed a wrestler that everyone hated. He got just that in Baron Corbin. Roman Reigns feud with Baron Corbin and they would have cringy segments involving dog food and basically a repeat from 2019. It would be cringy stuff that no one would enjoy. This would main event Friday Night SmackDown and the ratings would tumble. The ratings would go all the way down to 1.8 million and Vince McMahon would panic. As he panicked, he had this match main event Clash of Champions. This match was terrible. It would see Baron Corbin lose to Roman Reigns and fans thought it was over. They were happy it was over, but it continued at Hell in a Cell. They main evented the show once again, but this time it was inside Hell in a Cell. Nonetheless, they had a terrible match and no one enjoyed. The involvement of the Usos and Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode didn't really help. He got spots like a spear through the cage, chokeslam through the announce table, and ultimately Baron Corbin pouring dog food over Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns hitting a spear to retain his Universal title. After this, Roman Reigns got an ugly custom dog Universal title that no one really liked. It looked disgusting and no one would buy it. At Survivor Series, he was scheduled to face Drew McIntyre. The entire world was rooting for Drew McIntyre and no one wanted to see Roman Reigns win the match. Drew McIntyre was the hero and Roman Reigns, well, he was a heel even though he's a face. The match ended with Roman Reigns hitting a spear. 1, 2, 3. Roman Reigns had won the match. He received a ton of boos, but Vince saw this coming and he had a backup plan. Drew McIntyre snapped. He hit a claymore followed by a couple of chair shots. Drew McIntyre snapped and was a heel. The entire audience was in shock and the stadium was in silence. No one was booing Roman Reigns, but they were focused on Drew McIntyre. Since no one liked Roman Reigns, the ideal face of the company, who did they like? Well, they liked Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan is who they wanted to be the next star, but Vince thought he was too old. Instead, he gave him the Intercontinental Championship and he thought he'd make the title prestigious. And that's what Bryan did. He won the title at Clash of Champions from Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles. After he won, he received a louder pop than Roman Reigns has ever received in his life. And he went on to defend it at Hell in a Cell against Shinsuke Nakamura. They would have a great match with Daniel Bryan coming out on top, retaining the gold, heading into Survivor Series as champion. Now for Roman Reigns' opponent at TLC, he would face Bill Goldberg. Vince McMahon needed a wrestler that people hated, but instead of putting over Roman Reigns, this put over Bill Goldberg. Fans wanted Bill Goldberg to defeat Roman Reigns, basically bury him and send him to NXT. But that's not what happened. Goldberg's duty was to put over Roman Reigns. It didn't happen, but Goldberg lost. Roman Reigns squashed Goldberg because Goldberg can't wrestle for more than 5 minutes, and fans booed Roman Reigns yet again. Daniel Bryan main evented TLC against Seth Rollins in a tables, ladders and chairs match. Daniel Bryan would come up short as Seth Rollins won after a low blow. And now it was time for the Royal Rumble. Rumors were swirling. Edge was supposed to win the Royal Rumble and face Drew McIntyre, but everyone wanted Daniel Bryan to win. He was the fan favourite. As for Roman Reigns, he's going to face the chairman's son, Shane McMahon. This is the classic thing here, trying to put over Roman Reigns, using himself and Shane McMahon. And now it's time for the Royal Rumble. Before the Royal Rumble match, we had Roman Reigns and Shane McMahon in a no-holds-barred match. Each time Roman Reigns pinned Shane McMahon, Vince would either pull the referee outside the ring or break up the pin. But double spear ended that as Roman Reigns pinned Shane McMahon 1, 2 and 3. Fans didn't care as they expected this result and it was time for the Royal Rumble now. The last 4 men in the match were Daniel Bryan, Edge, Jeff Hardy and Christian. It started off by Jeff Hardy eliminating Christian, but Edge got revenge for his old buddy and hit a low blow. He eliminated Jeff Hardy and they had a stare down. At this point we knew we were going to get Jeff Hardy versus Edge, whether we like it or not. And now it's time for the last two, Daniel Bryan and Edge. The fan favorite in Daniel Bryan or Edge, who would win the Royal Rumble? It was rumored Edge would win, but Daniel Bryan still had a chance. The fans were on the edge of their seats. They all wanted Daniel Bryan to win and they were cheering for him. But Edge hit a spear and the stadium was silent. At this point, Edge was going to win the Royal Rumble, but Daniel Bryan, being the underdog, reversed it. He hit a running knee and Edge went over the top rope. Daniel Bryan had just won the Royal Rumble and the stadium erupted. He got one of the loudest pops in WWE history, with everyone cheering yes, 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 and they all wanted Daniel Bryan to face Roman Reigns. Every fan went home happy, and they wanted Daniel Bryan to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. But that happiness ended when it was rumored that Daniel Bryan was supposed to face Drew McIntyre. Since Daniel Bryan was the face and Drew was the heel, that was the rumored match. But at Elimination Chamber, we found out who he was going to face. He appeared on all three shows, NXT, Raw, and Friday Night SmackDown. As for Roman Reigns, he had a rematch against Shane McMahon at the Elimination Chamber. Since Vince was injured, he couldn't be on ringside for Shane, and basically Roman Reigns squashed Shane McMahon in 10 seconds. But after the match, the fans were shocked as Daniel Bryan came out, hitting a running knees into the yes lock. He grabbed a microphone and said, "I want you at WrestleMania, Roman," and the match was set. At WrestleMania, Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns. The show's ratings were at an all-time low since no one liked Roman Reigns. As Daniel Bryan's shirts sold out, Roman Reigns' shirts were left unsold. No one liked Roman Reigns, and we all wanted Daniel Bryan to win in the main event of WrestleMania. Vince tried to ignore the shirt sales, he tried to ignore the TV ratings, but he couldn't. It was bad for TV, and Vince had to do the right thing. And then it was time. Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan. The build had been fantastic, with Usos interfering and Daniel Bryan's buddy Cesaro interfering. They ended up having a classic in the main event of WrestleMania Night 2, and the fans were on the edge of their seat. The match was great, but the fans couldn't pay attention to that as they wanted Daniel Bryan to win. They were really nervous. It was the fans' hero versus Vince McMahon's guy. Who would win the match? We had cool spots like a Samoan drop through the table, spear through the barricade. Daniel Bryan even choked Roman Reigns at the ring rope. But the match ended with Roman Reigns going for a spear, Bryan reversing, going into the yes lock, and Roman Reigns tapped out. Daniel Bryan had just won the Universal title and received one of the loudest pops in WWE history. The night ended with fans cheering yes as Daniel Bryan held the Universal title up high as he was now the Universal Champion. After this, Vince McMahon did the Vince McMahon thing and panicked. He held a draft after WrestleMania since he thought Bryan had no opponents left on Friday Night SmackDown. In the draft, the likes of Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, Bobby Lashley, the tag champions and Gallows and Anderson, and the United States champion AJ Styles moved over to Friday Night SmackDown, while Roman Reigns, the Usos, the IC champion Seth Rollins, Apollo Crews, and Baron Corbin went over to Monday Night Raw. Bryan went on to feud with Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Finn Balor, and had the best Universal title reign in the belt's history. While Roman was rumored to win the WWE title from Edge, it never happened. He defeated Roman for the IC title, but no one really enjoyed that. He had a lackluster IC title reign, having rematches against Baron Corbin, Apollo Crews, Robert Roode, Dolph Ziggler, and Seth Rollins. Everyone just wanted him to drop the title at this point. No one really cared about him. He had boring matches, the title lost its prestige, the Raw mid-card was just boring with Roman Reigns cutting these cringy promos every single week. Everyone was tired of Roman Reigns, no one liked him. SmackDown was gaining viewers while Daniel Bryan was champion, and Raw was losing viewers because the mid-card was just basically ruined. Bryan would go on to have great matches against Randy Orton, be the underdog against Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar, have great matches against John Cena, while Roman Reigns' title reign was basically a rematch title reign. Raw had become rematch land, it was rematch Raw basically, and no one enjoyed. The IC title lost its prestige while the United States title flourished. The Universal title felt important, and Bryan even brought back the big gold. He had matches against his past rivals like Orton, Cena, and Brock. He would also have great feuds against Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and Shinsuke Nakamura. His title reign was the best ever in Universal titles history, and he would be a great champion. The day he would lose it would be a bad one. Roman Reigns would be given goofy lines by Bruce Pritchard. He never got on the right foot and would just be hated by fans forever.